Sony's PlayStation 5 is now agonisingly close, so it's only natural that a watery-mouthed gaming public is eager to learn as much as possible about it. This collective microscope trained onto the new hardware has already revealed one juicy little secret. That texture which adorns the spangly new DualSense controller, on closer inspection and with some Rick Deckard-style zoom and enhance, reveals that it's actually made up of tiny little PlayStation symbols. It's utterly beautiful, and you just want to rub your little face against it. Not in a weird way. I suspect it has the same consistency as a car's dashboard. This isn't the first time that Sony have included a tiny tangible reference to the PlayStation's iconography on one of their consoles. The PS4 Slim's rubber feet were likewise in the shape of triangles, squares, crosses and circles. It was equally adorable and something you'd never notice unless you accidentally upended it. That said, the Japanese giants aren't the only company to add such flourishes to their hardware. Going right back to the Atari VCS's wooden panels, whose weight indicated the model, console manufacturers have been leaving all sorts of jazzy hidden features about their hardware. From the useful to the ornamental, these are some of the snazziest. I am Kirsten from WhatCulture Gaming, and these are 10 amazing hidden console details you didn't know. Number 10. The Dreamcast's secret BIOS. The Dreamcast has a fond place in many Sega fans' hearts, not just for its preternatural hardware and wonderfully diverse, if somewhat limited library, but for just how delightfully quirky it was. From its quixotic name and twee controller wire clip, the rocket-powered fans and a visual memory card that was also a Tamagotchi, there was just an ineffable charm to the console that we rarely see these days. The BIOS was no exception. All bouncy icons and satisfyingly gamey confirmation bleeps, a far cry from the stern and sleek style for today's electronic entertainment centres. It also harboured a little secret, hidden by Sega right up until the Dreamcast bowed out. Their Japanese valediction, 2004's Puyo Puyo Fever, contained a little snippet of VMU code, which when installed would transform the Dreamcast's usual flat menu at the press of the start button. Taking on a deep blue shade with spiffy reflections, the BIOS could now be twisted and rotated to your heart's content. It served precisely zero function, besides as a reminder of Sega's winsomeness. Number 9. The Switch's golf game. One of the first games late President Satoru Iwata worked on as a programmer at Nintendo was the prosaic though pragmatically titled Golf. Shortly after the Nintendo Switch launched, hardware hackers discovered this 1984 NES title, deviously labelled Flog in the code, secreted away on the system. When the arcane method to unlock the game was deciphered, it became clear the Easter egg had been included as a touching tribute to the Kirby creator, who sadly passed away at the age of 55 on the 11th of July 2015. The club-swinging sports sim could be teed off by setting the Switch's clock to July 11th, and then thrusting both arms out with Joy-Cons in hand. This was the gesture Iwata endearingly made his own through many a Nintendo Direct. What's more, this would only work on a Switch which had never been connected to the internet, making it the most secret of secrets. Nintendo neither confirmed nor denied even the existence of the plaid-panted homage, and in a December 2017 Switch update, it was quietly wiped from the console. Number 8. The Gamecube's 3D. Cubes are all the rage these days, in large part thanks to the popularity of Minecraft. Fervour for evenly sided geometry in games has never been higher, with a slew of lookalikes and a style-wise derivatives sold partly on the basis of their angular aesthetic. The likes of Fez, The Tourist and Pokemon Quest are just 3 examples. To paraphrase Mike Oldfield, cubular cells. Nintendo, always ahead of the curve, or the flat edge in this case, were a bit too early stepping onto the 6-sided ship, releasing the GameCube to only moderate success in 2001. The world simply wasn't ready for a console with a handle. Aside from its shape, if we're being pedantic, it was a irregular cuboid, which might have implicitly impacted sales, the GameCube was a pioneer in 3D games, the sort that require snazzy plastic glasses. Only it wasn't just ampliopics who never got to see it. Former President Satoru Iwata explained that amazingly the console had stereoscopic capabilities and that a special LCD screen was developed for the purpose. Even without special glasses, the 3D looked pretty good, he remembered. However, though several versions of existing games, such as Luigi's Mansion, were adapted for the new tech, Nintendo decided the market just wasn't ready for it. They'd later reuse the idea for the 3DS. Number 7. 3DS Breakout. Through some browser jiggery pokery, it's possible to play a touchscreen variant of Atari classic Breakout on the 3DS. Now, it's not entirely clear why you'd necessarily want to go to such effort to play a 44-year-old game on a handheld already bristling with quality titles, but this little trick is pretty swish nonetheless. You'll need a pretty strong sense of rhythm if you're to unveil Steve Wozniak's brick-bashing 1975 classic. Head to the 3DS web browser, hold your stylus like a drumstick, and tap out the beat of the Super Mario Bros. Theme. Clicking a link will then turn it into a series of suspended blocks, just waiting to be smashed to pieces. Rumours that you can play Arkanoid on the Switch by waggling Joy-Cons to the rhythm of Zelda's Lullaby are, as of yet, unfounded. Number 6. The Gamecube's hidden startup sounds. More fun from Nintendo's Indigo Cube of Wonder, also available in black. Admittedly, this one is fairly well known, but it's just too precious to omit. Hold the Z button while booting up the Gamecube, and the usual already quirky contrapuntal xylophone ditty will be replaced by an even quirkier and marginally unnerving variation arranged for squeaks and babies. If that's not odd enough for you, gather up 4 controllers and do your best octopus impression to hold down the Z button down on all of them as the console starts. You'll be treated to a no version of the melody. The Kyoto game giants have a thing for startup bonuses. Powering up the 64DD without a disc would tease Mario out from behind the logo, after which he'd perform all manner of parlour tricks. Turn the DS on your birthday, and the handheld celebrates the anniversary with a calmer, higher-pitched boot noise. What would we do without Nintendo, eh? Number 5. Xbox One S's Dinky Master Chief. Microsoft's patchy history of faulty hardware meant that they knew that at some point someone would dismantle their Xbox One S and have a poke around inside. In anticipation, they hid an adorable little Easter egg within the sleek system's innards. Dissect the expensive bit of kit and you'll discover a cutesy rendition of none other than console mascot Master Chief, etched onto the side of the optical disc bracket. If he could speak, he'd tell you that you just voided your warranty. The Windows giants have carried this little nod over to their latest hardware, the positively meaty Xbox One X. This time the Halo protagonist can be found mounted on a Scorpion on the console's circuit board, a neat reference to both its original codename, Project Scorpio, and the tanks found within Master Chief's games. Number 4. The Xbox's Apollo Echoes. When Microsoft launched their inaugural console, the Xbox, in 2001, the novel hardware presented many mysteries. Was such a technical behemoth entirely necessary to run ports of Spider Solitaire and Minesweeper? Had Andre the Giant designed the chunky controller which required a handspan as wide as the Amazon? What eldritch horrors would be unleashed by breaking into said controller's central orb of doom? And just what were those echoey whispers haunting players who idled on the system's dashboard? We actually eventually got an answer to that last question. It wasn't the tormented screams of souls trying to escape the orb, but in fact, according to director of Xbox Live programming, Larry Herb, audio from NASA's Apollo transmissions. The archival clips were adjusted to give them that otherworldly interstellar sound, perfect for the console's alien-esque bios, but also very creepy. Number 3. The Game Boy Colours Retro Technicolor. Now, it's not exactly a secret that the Game Boy Color could play games in, well, colour. The clue was in the name, even allowing for the missing U, which might have deceived the British market. The long-awaited Game Boy update, actually a make-weight ahead of the Game Boy Advance, finally allowed mobile players to enjoy games on the bus in vibrant hues. It was entirely its key selling point. But what many people don't necessarily realise is that the Dinky device's polychromatic magic also worked in reverse, infusing the black and white back catalogue with splashes of hitherto unenjoyed colour. Depending on the buttons held down upon startup, 12 different palette variations could be applied to legacy software, including a totally gnarly inverted scheme which makes every game take place in Martin Lee's subconscious. Even neater, some original Game Boy games containing colour data intended for the Super Game Boy show previous monochrome sprites in even more sophisticated Technicolor. Pokemon Red and Blue are the prime examples, each Pocket Monster receiving an appropriate and beautiful paint wash. Number 2. The PS2 could run at 1080i. You might think the PS3 ushered in the HD age of gaming. Yes, PC gamers, we know. And owing to the fact it was the first console to offer HDMI output straight from the box, it's a fair assumption. But in actuality, based on the modern definition of HD, another sort of contemporaneously accurate marketing spiel which saw high-definition graphics printed on the Sega Genesis, it was its predecessor which first delivered games with such glorious visual fidelity. After a fashion, anyway. Though it doesn't have a HDMI adapter, a handful of PS2 games allow the option to be played in 1080i. The most notable is Gran Turismo 4, although resolution will revert for menus. Tourist Trophy, Valkyrie Profile 2, and bizarrely Jackass also had options for outputting at the system-stretching resolution too. In a similar vein, the PS2 had a console-level feature which allowed the majority of its widescreen games to display via slightly clearer progressive scan. Holding triangle and X after the startup logo brings up the option, though in PAL territories, switching it on would result in a drop in resolution. Thanks for nothing, bureaucrats from Brussels. Number 1. The Self Cleaning PS3. Back in the 80s, delivering millions of poor, trapped dust mites from their video game console prison was as simple as blowing on the cartridge slot. Connectors cleaned, you could now happily complete, or frustratingly not complete, your grime-free games. Cartridges might be a thing of the past, but in the age of power-chugging super consoles, dust-gathering hardware remains an issue. Are your console's fans having seismologists wind up the civil alert system? It's probably clogged to high heaven with airborne detritus. But cleaning a modern console is futile. Not only are they hermetically sealed, but the second a feather duster makes the faintest contact, they inevitably switch themselves on. It's a scientific fact that the PS4's wedged form factor is designed to make it as inaccessible as humanly possible. Sony actually came up with a solution for this in its predecessor, the PS3. Well, sort of. With the power of holding down eject and then plugging it back in will activate a scarcely believable self-cleaning feature. Yes, a self-cleaning feature. It does this by basically overclocking the fan, thus blasting all the dirt out like a pressure washer. Whether this is a good solution is debatable, but it's certainly an exciting one. And there you are, the 10 amazing hidden console details you didn't know. But if you did, leave us a comment down below and let us know. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, click that subscribe button as well as the little notification bell to be notified of any new videos coming your way. But for now, I have been Kirsten Ria from WhatCulture Gaming, and I will see you in the next video.